And we're back once again. Welcome in to episode 3. We had Moosehead was episode number 1, and then we did New Belgium, episode number 2 with Fat Tire. And I think that's probably my favorite part.
That is a fun part, yeah. Just cracking it open, listen to that, just crack top, and it's a good time.
Mm-hmm. We're delving into more of a, I guess, somewhat local compared to maybe Moosehead and New Belgium, but Heilman's Old Style out of La Crosse, Wisconsin.
And like you said, it is a bit more local. This beer is kind of more of a regional beer. It's not across the entire country, the United States or anything. It's predominantly most popular in Wisconsin and Illinois. A little bit here in Minnesota and Iowa, but for the most part, it is pretty regional. Although you can find it you can find it on the West Coast, but mostly right here in the regional, the flyover states, pretty much is where it's at. Old style beer,
and it's not. So old style. I feel like I think I've been to the brewery once. I was down there for. I think my great grandma was in the hospital for a minute. Checkups or something like that. But I feel like I was down there, and I feel like I went to the brewery, but it was something else. Isn't it? What am I thinking of?
It's called the City Brewery.
Okay, there we go. That must be what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think that it used to be that or something. I don't know. I think you have the background.
And it's pretty much been brewed there most of its existence from the time at inception until 1999. Actually, is when it quit brewing there. But it's the G. Heilman Brewing Company. It operated from 1858 to 1996, right there in La Crosse, Wisconsin, at the City Brewery that you went to. Do you remember anything about that brewery? Was it a tour?
I believe that we did a tour, but I don't know that we did like the full on everything tour. I think it was just kind of like seeing a couple of the production things, and then went to like a tasting at the very end. I think I believe I have a beer stein from there, but that was, I don't know, that was probably almost 10, 15 years ago now, so I don't remember a whole lot from it,
sure.
But
was
just
it
that
Old
it
Style
existed.
that you tasted there? Do you remember?
I think so, because I think that they talked about that it used to be, because that was where I bring that up, is I think they talked about that it was, because it was called City, but called Old Style, and I was like, I don't know what the difference is.
Sure.
But that was also, years ago, that it was a lot of beers ago.
Sure,
we'll say that.
This is actually the first time I've ever tried Old Style. Like, looking at the label, blue and yellow label, it says Old Style. Like, I recognize that label. I've seen signs for it and, dive bars and whatnot. But I've never tried it before. But yeah, it's not too bad. We'll get into that a little bit more. But it was originally called Golden Leaf Lager in the 1890s. Is what it was originally called.
Golden Leaf Lager?
Golden Leaf Lager was the original name for it.
Okay.
Of course, we already talked about it's pretty much regional, most popular in Wisconsin and Illinois. But it first appeared in local stores in 1902. So it's been out for sale for the general public for quite a while now. Over 100 years now, which is hard to fathom that beer's been for sale for 100 years.
Right.
Like we talked about, Moosehead was founded when the country of Canada was founded. Here we have another beer, Old Style. It's fairly local. It's been around for that long. In the 1950s, Old Style became the official beer of the Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's. I suppose La Crosse is a little closer. It's still on the west side of Wisconsin, but it's a little ways. Fair enough.
It gained popularity in Chicago and Wisconsin. There's two biggest selling spots. Throughout the 1950s, it was the beer of the Chicago Cubs. But it currently isn't anymore, but it's still one of their top selling beers at Wrigley Field. They still sell Old Style right there at the ballpark. So when you eat your hot dog and get yourself an Old Style and watch the Cubs disappoint you like like the Minnesota teams disappoint us. For all the Chicago fans out there, I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
It was a lot better.
We feel your pain.
It was a lot more fun it being disappointed by the Cubs years ago. It was a lot more fun. I feel like when they won the World Series, then it kind of, now it's more like good.
Yeah, that is true. They did finally get the World Series. Like I said, Old Style was around until 1996 when it pretty much went belly up, bankrupt, a lot of legal issues, ownership issues, things like that. Stroh's actually picked it up in 1996, and they bought it, and they kept brewing it, but they actually moved the brewing process from La Crosse to Milwaukee. And that's where it currently is over in Milwaukee. And then in 1999, Pabst actually bought bought it out from Stroh's because Stroh's went out of business themselves. So
I was going to say, I didn't think Stroh's was around, but,
yeah, they don't really exist anymore. You can still buy Stroh's beer, but of course it's owned by
somebody else,
which maybe we'll get to in another podcast episode.
There we go.
So Miller Brewing is what brews it now, which isn't too uncommon. Companies purchase their beers all the time to add and subtract from their portfolio and change things around all the time. Despite changing hands, the few times that it has between Stroh's and Pabst and everything, Old Style actually still uses its original ingredients and its original recipe. It hasn't changed once.
So it's still the same thing.
Yep, still the same thing, same ingredients. It's made it a favorite for over 100 years regionally here, a favorite, especially in Chicago and in Wisconsin. Back in about the 2010s, Old Style revived a centuries-old German brewing tradition. So that's how they brew Old Style now, is with the old tradition. And I'm going to butcher the name. It's called a Kruzinin, I believe is a German term for it, and it's a double fermentation process. It increases carbonation and richness, ultimately leading to a better tasting beer. And they've been doing that since about 2009. And since they went back to that type of brewing process, Old Style has actually won medals at the Great American Beer Festival and the World Beer Cup, which we need to figure out when and where that is.
Exactly.
We need to take a trip.
Yep.
A road trip.
Live on location.
Right.
We'll take the two guys jet.
Right.
And be out there.
Wherever it may be.
Exactly.
It sounds like a good time. Of course, we talked about the labels. I lift the beer can up here, that blue and little red triangle label there with the yellow around it. What it kind of reminds me of, the can and the pictures on the label. It almost reminds me of going to Las Vegas. I don't know how many people have been down there. Las Vegas is a great time. But if you've stayed at Excalibur Hotel, it's that medieval type castle theme. Like when you look at an Old Style label like that in the can, it reminds me that's where Old Style should be sold. Is it like Excalibur in Las Vegas?
I could follow that. Yeah. Got a little table with some fryers on it, or some people making something in a cauldron. Right. Big old oak barrels, probably full of mead.
Yeah, look at
Brandon would like mead.
Look at the guys on the can. That's kind of what it.
The one with the two oxes in the cart, though, makes me think of Monty Python. Bring out your dead. Not dead yet.
That's a great movie. So, of course, too, we're talking about Old Style is actually coming back to La Crosse, Wisconsin this November. So Pabst is selling off their major breweries, and they're going back to little local breweries. All their beers that Pabst owns is going back to local breweries. So as of this November, Old Style will be brewed back in the city brewery where it originally started, starting this November. And by the end of the year, everything will be there for Old Style again.
Oh, nice.
So that's pretty cool to bring something back. I'm sure La Crosse likes that.
Yeah, I'm going down there, I believe, in September at some point. So I'll be a little bit early, but I'll drive by it. I'll wave and scream the PBR me ASAP song or something.
Tell them about the podcast.
Right, there you go.
Listen to our podcast.
I'll throw a couple of business cards out at them.
As you go by. So, and while you're there, they actually have a large Oktoberfest festival there every year since 1969. Well, they claim to fame there is they hold the world's largest six-pack pub crawl there. Apparently, they have constructed 6 metal tanks right across from the La Crosse brewery, and those 6 tanks hold 22,220 barrels of beer.
Go on.
And they wrap those with advertisements, of course. But
right.
Because Old Style is coming back, they're going to wrap them in the wonderful Old Style wrap.
Nice.
With the blue and the yellow shield and the red corner there. Another interesting thing, I guess, about the Heilman Brewing Company, while it was still in existence before it went out. We should have known this, but I didn't know. Maybe you know. Maybe the listeners know. You can like, comment, share. Let us know if you knew any of these things about this, especially the comments, because I didn't know. They debuted the sparkling water LaCroix.
Oh,
at the city brewery and
there you go.
The Heilman Brewery, yeah, it debuted in 1981. I have no idea LaCroix water's been around that long.
Could you imagine that conversation? All right, guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take water. We're gonna put it in a can. Okay, then what? We'll put some flavor, maybe a little
That's
bit.
That's it.
And we're gonna sell it. You're gonna what now?
At a brewery of all places.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're gonna can water, boys.
Can I just use this? I can turn the tap on over here, and we've got a fountain that's over by the bathroom. We could, I don't know, put like a blueberry by it or something. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I like the beer. It's pretty good. First time I've ever had it. This kind of reminds me of, it's a lager, but we kind of talked about it earlier today, not on this podcast, but just conversation before. You know when you're mowing the yard and it's hot out and you want to drink a beer?
Some kind of nice and refreshing.
This would do the trick.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, open a can of Old Style and slam this, you could drink a few of these and be most satisfied with the taste of this stuff. I think it's pretty crisp and it's a light beer, but it still does have a flavor. It's not a light beer, but it's being a lager, it's a lighter beer, but it does still have some flavor for a lager. Kind of like the Moosehead had a little bit of flavor.
Yeah.
This isn't like a typical lager. Like you can tell there's some sort of like a maltiness aftertaste or something along those lines.
Definitely different, distinct flavor profiles between the Moosehead and the Old Style as well. So it's not like the same. Or anything,
and it doesn't cost too much. It doesn't really break the bank. Like it's not heavily advertised, so of course buying the product is cheaper. And this is what 20 ounce.
I was gonna say
it's a 6-pack. It's like a pounder.
Tall boy. Was it a 6-pack or was it a 4-pack?
6-pack.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like
sometimes you just get like the 4-pack with a little plastic covered bit, but
it was like $8.69 or something like that for this.
Not bad at all.
I'm like, when I saw that price, I'm like, boy, I hope it tastes good.
I'll take 2. Yeah, it's nice and lagers kind of have that kind of refreshing vibe to it anyway. But I like what you're saying about like the way they changed the process recently. Because it definitely does have that. It's got a very smooth, crisp kind of flavor to it.
Yeah, that aftertaste, I think, really gets you up. I do like the aftertaste of it. And I would definitely crack open a can of this after mowing the yard for 3 hours in 90-degree weather.
Absolutely.
I'd probably crack open more than one. I'd probably drink 2.
I'd probably crack open a couple and forget to mow the yard. Is probably what I'd do. Find me on the porch just watching the grass grow. Get yelled at as soon as the wife comes home. I thought you were working on that. Don't worry about it, bro. It's fine.
We'll get to it.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Classic line. So it sounds like some of our, not favorite, but more well-known running backs are starting to find some landing places. Like Dalvin Cook sounds like he's going to New York to join Aaron Rodgers for a stretch run. I mean, they haven't started, so I don't know if it's a stretch run. But
well, what did you say a week ago that they could create a super team? I don't think that's going to happen in New York. I think the Jets are being way overrated this year. I am not seeing that the Jets are going to do anything worth anything this year. I mean, it's possible. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the history of NFL. But I don't know, man. I'm not sold on them at all doing anything.
I'm going to need to see them in a regular season game doing something. I've watched, I haven't really watched Hard Knocks consistently, but I've seen like a little bit, kind of some clips here and there and some different, different things or whatever where they talk about some of the stuff that like Rodgers is doing. And, when he's, like you said, he's still one of the greatest quarterbacks, to really ever play. But he's working with a whole different receiver group, a very young receiver group, and maybe they're hungry enough to be able to go out and get it. But, can they protect well enough to be able to, keep him clean? Can they play defense well enough? I mean, they had a pretty good defense anyway. And, I don't know, the clip that I seen that really kind of stuck a little bit with me was Robert Salah, the coach. He was having a big team meeting and said, we're not the same Jets anymore. You have to embrace having the expectation that whatever team you are playing is coming for you, because it's no longer just a expected W for the other team. You have to go out and get it. And so you're going to get each team's best punch. Even if you're 0-5 to start the season, there's going to be a team that's going to do that because of the fact that you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook. You put together that type of atmosphere, it doesn't matter. We want to squash you. It's no longer we just want to win. We want to beat you.
Right.
So that's he's kind of instilling that belief. And I like Robert Salah. It'd be interesting to see if he can figure out the offensive side of the ball, but I think he's a heck of a football coach. But in the end, it's still the Jets. It's kind of like believing in the Lions. You know what I mean? Like, give it everything you got, but they're still the Lions.
Yeah, they are still the Lions, but they had quite the offense last year.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they're a little overrated this year. But if that offense plays like they did last year, and if the improvements they made on defense this year comes through, it wouldn't be surprising if they pass Minnesota and win the NFC North this year.
Yeah, I could see any range of things from them. For sure.
It'll be see if they can not turn the ball over and the defense picks up just a little bit. Like they probably will win the NFC North unless somehow the Vikings defense is marginally better than last year. It's kind of a wait and see.
They can't be much worse.
Right.
I think it'll be maybe a little bit better, but I don't know. It's you just gotta, you gotta go from 32 to 25 minimum. Hopefully up to about a 20 as far as rankings to be able to make a dent on that side of the ball.
Sure.
Like the offense is going to do what they're going to do, but you got to, get to the next level. You got to be able to do something.
Did you see Zeke Elliott signed with the Patriots?
Yeah, like something like $6 million or something like that. I don't know. That's part of. I mean, I think Cook's deal is bigger. His was like 8.5 or something like that. So
Cook's
I don't remember.
Probably a little better running back than Elliott. Overall,
I would agree. A little better out of the backfield. A little better. Yeah, so it's. I don't know. It's kind of interesting, to see like. Okay, so they got released and they kind of waited through most of training camp and some of the OTAs, things like that, to actually get a deal done with somebody. Maybe they're trying to hold out for better money, or maybe they're just, all right, I'm going to sign with you, but I'm going to wait until after week 1 of training camp just to less wear and tear. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about the legs. I'm not worried about whatever. Like, be able to just focus on just football and being healthy. So maybe that's part of it. I guess, who knows on that. But it is, I think it was something about a $6 million deal or whatever with the Patriots. But I don't know. That'll be kind of interesting. Cause,
what do you think he's going to bring to the Patriots offense? Do you think he's got anything left? Like, I don't think he's been that great of a running. He had, maybe 2 great years? Yeah. Otherwise, it's been kind of injury riddled. Like, last year, he wasn't that great.
Yeah, they have a decent offensive line there. But I don't know. I'm still not just convinced that Daniel Jones is, or not Daniel Jones, Mac Jones.
Yeah,
Mac Jones. Daniel Jones is Giants. There we go. We can fix that in post. It's but yeah, Mac Jones. I mean, he's a good quarterback, but is he going to be that next level? Get you to that next level, and then their defense is still kind of suspect, and they're not the Patriots that were just bulletproof, of old. But I mean, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll do some stuff.
Well, but their defense was rated the top 5 last year. I thought, they were pretty stout.
Yeah, they're still, that's probably why they were in a lot of the games that they were. But I don't know. It just, I don't know. They don't have, maybe that's all it is. Maybe they're a playoff team, which is good for a lot of places. But if they're not challenging for a championship, the expectation is they fell short. You know what I mean? Maybe that's, kind of where my mindset is.
Thank Brady for that.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
All those years out there. Mm-hmm. What was surprising about the Patriots when they signed Devontae Parker? I thought it might have been his emergence. He'd been pretty good. He was not that great last year. I wonder if having Zeke in the backfield will help him at all. If the defenses are still going to play to try to stop Zeke or not, or what they're. It'd be interesting to see this year kind of how that plays out.
Well, and I think that's a lot of that's going to fall under what Zeke does, because I think that the first couple of weeks, if he doesn't do anything, if he rushes 25 times for 60 yards or something like that, I think that defenses will stay collapsing back. And leave an extra safety out or whatever to, be able to take Parker off the board. If you can eliminate that and force Mac to be able to make some plays either with his feet or something like that kind of changes what you're doing on offense. But, if you have, Zeke, that if he comes out and the first game has 130 yards and then game 2 has 180 and a couple touchdowns or something like that, then you start seeing things open up a little bit more vertically. That's in a way, that's kind of what the Vikings are hoping to be able to do with Madison, trying to, open it up a little bit more that way, just to, they're already an aerial attack, but if you can force the linebackers to stay for an extra half a second, it makes potentially all the difference in the world. And I don't know, maybe I think that's what they're trying to do, and that's what they're hoping for. But I really do think that the first 2 or 3 weeks is really going to kind of dictate what he does and what the Patriots are going to be able to do on offense.
You think, being over there on the Patriots is going to help anybody's fantasy teams? I
mean, I probably draft him, but maybe as a running back 2 or something. Sure. I don't know that. We'll have to see kind of where things fall out. In one keeper league, I kind of want to do a completely side note. I want to do what was the guillotine league where you draft whatever you're going to draft, and you don't have picking up, releases and waivers and stuff like that. But each week, whoever team is that scores the least amount of points is cut, and you're done for the year. And then their team now all becomes free agents, and it's a waiver thing based on lowest seed or whatever, gets first pick. You just basically redraft every week the 12, 13 guys that they got.
Well, that would be interesting. How many teams are allowed though?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it depends on like how big your league is going to be. I think it'd be kind of cool because you get that feeling of like, because the draft is really the funnest part of any of it. You know what I mean? Doing that, and so you maybe get a couple of chances to be able to do that. But if you get eliminated week 1, well, now I don't care.
Right.
You know, like I'm not doing anything.
You do? You don't even pay attention to the league anymore.
Yeah, how do you even participate at that point?
And like, I think the key to that would be how many teams are allowed to draft. You know, we played fantasy football for a long time, and it seems anything more than 10 teams in the league, it kind of makes it pretty tough.
Yeah, to try to get anything on a waiver.
Anything whatsoever. Yeah. You know, you end up drafting, if there's a 12-team league and you have, 8 starters, 10 starters, and 6 or 7 bench players, well, now you're drafting bench quarterbacks, like hoping they get in there. You're drafting, picking up third string running backs off the waiver wire just to try to fill up your roster in an emergency situation,
Yeah, I think if you stay like 10 or less, like you said, kind of gets that sweet spot, 8-ish. Like you get at least get a little bit of flexibility. You know what I mean? You get some people that are like picking up and making all sorts of roster moves or whatever. But at least if nothing else, like some of the people that are like Thursday are like, oh crap, I need, they got a wide receiver that's on a bye or something, and the other one's hurt, or like they actually have some not maybe great options, but like, okay, I can go get a KJ Osborne. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, or an Addison or something. Just to more so pick Viking guys, but you can get something that's
we're homers, so
yeah. I mean,
unfortunately,
why not?
Not for fantasy sports. I don't draft Vikings for fantasy, but I got burned on that one time. But.
You don't go straight Seahawks lineup like old Mike used to do way back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. He did. He's a Seahawks fan.
Until like the one year that it actually worked.
Yeah. You have Netflix, don't you?
I've had it. I don't currently have it, but
you need to catch up with the times.
I know. I'm kind of failing at that.
So you don't watch the Untold series?
No,
they're
unaware
all
of
about
that.
like it's a documentary. They're about an hour and a half long, and it's different athletes. Mike Tyson or Lance Armstrong, Untold, behind the scenes. Well. One this last week came out. Well, it was probably 2 weeks ago, actually, that I think about it. Was Johnny Manziel.
Manziel. I think I heard they were talking about that on the radio.
So that was very interesting, and I watched it. I enjoyed it. He was like Jamarcus Russell. He over in Cleveland, he spent exactly 0 time watching film on any other team.
Doing the work.
Even on the documentary, they asked him the question, so did you ever watch film of the Browns? He held up his fingers in a goose egg. He's like, 0.
Absolutely not.
He's like, I wanted nothing to do with Cleveland, the Browns. Of course, he has a lot of mental health, according to the documentary. He's like, no, I wanted nothing to do with that. Absolutely 0 time. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I had I was kind of unaware of it, but now that you mention it, I didn't know that's what it was called. But they, I was listening to like Fox Sports Radio or something, I think is what it was. And maybe it was the Dan Patrick Show. Oh, that's what it was, Dan Patrick Show. They had Joe Thomas, the All-Pro tackle, on, and he was on that team when Manziel was drafted. And they were like, do you remember much of this? Did you watch the documentary? And he's like, I was unaware that the documentary existed, but I don't know that I want to watch it because I had to live it, and I just don't know that I want to go through that again.
Yeah,
I'm like, I guess I could see that.
It's too bad. Like I don't know if he ever would have panned out in the NFL, because basically in high school, if you watch the documentary, his high school, he wasn't even the starting quarterback. He ended up starting for some reason. I don't remember why, according to the documentary. But he basically played high school ball, like backyard ball. Didn't really care much, didn't pay a whole lot of attention, but it was working extremely well. Like they were blowing teams out like 70-0. Well, and of course, he goes and gets a full ride to Texas A&M. I was
going to say, that's basically the same story that happened there.
He just played backyard football at Texas A&M, and they let him. Just destroyed the SEC, beat Alabama at Alabama. He was the first freshman quarterback to ever win the Heisman. First freshman to ever win the Heisman Trophy. Ever.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
Yeah, and I want to say, and not that this is it, because, whatever, different people have different viewpoints on, whatever. But my understanding, I believe he came from money, like came from kind of a wealthy family to begin with. So
that is wrong.
Really? I thought that I had heard that at one point.
Everybody heard that at one point.
Okay, because that was kind of my thought. That was my thought, that it was like, okay, so he didn't really need it, so he didn't really care.
That was a narrative that him and his agent put into play because of his issues he was having and trying to pass drug tests and stuff. So they put this big old, he's just a rich boy, not disciplined. He comes for money. We need to teach him how to act.
Okay,
so that was a wool pull over everybody's eyes.
Okay, so I'm not the only one then. I feel a little bit better. All of our listeners out there, like, I'm with you. I'm one of you. I'm not any smarter.
So you need to watch the documentary. It's interesting too. Also in the documentary, when he was in college, he made hundreds of thousands of dollars that you weren't supposed to back then in the NCAA.
Right. That was before NIL and
setting
everything.
Up meetings. He'd fly to anywhere in the country in a hotel room, sign a bunch of stuff, get paid in cash, and leave. And he did that month after month after month after month. Mm-hmm. It was quite interesting. What I do find interesting about that, Reggie Bush had his Heisman taken away.
Yeah.
For the same things Johnny Manziel did. How come Manziel has never had his Heisman taken away, but Reggie Bush has?
Which, to a certain extent,
why.
I get it. You want to be able to punish somebody, for something, and that's the only threat or the only punishment that they can come up with. But at the same time, him doing that does not negate what he did on the field. You know what I mean? So that's, I don't know. I don't know what the answer would be for that, but it is kind of ridiculous that the impact that Reggie Bush had at USC is undeniable. You know what I mean? You even look at a guy at Ohio State before that, Maurice Clarett. I mean, he just disappeared off the face of the earth, some health issues and, the whole, tried to leave as a freshman and, all that stuff. But, there's certain people you can't deny what it was, did he run into some stuff? Yes. Do you take it away? I mean, I don't know. How do you punish somebody after the fact like that? I mean, what do you come up with as a punishment? I don't know what you would do. That's about the only thing that they could do, but it's still that doesn't change what he did for those years.
And how can you take away somebody's trophy that they already won?
Right.
They don't, what do they do? Just hand it to you? I already own it. I won it. It's in my house. No, you're not going to take it.
Yeah.
I mean,
or do they just take the name off
the book or whatever?
Yeah. Which he could still just be it's right here, guys. Just so you know, I still did it. I was still the best player in college football. Right. And, it's kind of in a way and this is, kind of more, again, homering, bringing it back to making it all about us. It's like the mid-90s Gophers team. You know what I mean? They still went to the Final Four. Did they kind of get in some academic stuff? I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, they still did that. I still remember watching those games. Bobby Jackson still knocked down some big shots. You know what I mean? Sam Jacobson was unreal. They still did all of those things. You can't, so it's...
John Thomas, Courtney James.
Mm-hmm.
That was just awesome.
Eric Harris. Let's see here. Was it Eric?
If he was healthy,
was it Eric
I bet
Thomas?
you we beat Kentucky in the Final
I think
Four.
So. Yeah, he was a shoulder issue, I think. Yeah, that was unreal. That was so much fun watching that era of basketball.
So back to football, because you said Maurice Clarett, that just jogged my memory. Didn't he get in trouble with a gun charge or robbery or something like that? Or
that sounds right.
Pretty hardcore.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because I think things kind of spooled off a little bit because he tried to leave after a freshman. Him and it Mike Johnson, I think, from USC, a wide receiver. They were both, it was Mike something from USC. They both tried to leave as freshmen to go to the NFL, and they were trying to, sue the rules or something.
Or was that when they couldn't?
Yeah.
The NFL has that minimum age.
It was the minimum age. They had to spend 2 years, and they're like, nope, we're going to go because of whatever. And the NFL's like, okay, but the NCAA said, no, you can't. And then the NFL's like, oh, well, I guess you can't then. Sorry about your luck. And then when they try to go back to school, the NCAA's like, sorry about it. And they wouldn't let them come back because I think they both signed with agents. And so they both had to take a year off, and neither one of them did anything after that.
Well, what they need to do is drink more old-style beer.
That's really the power that they were missing.
When you're training every day for 8 hours a day, 2 or 3, 2 hours in the gym, you come out, you crack an old style beer quick, you slam it, get back in the gym.
Absolutely.
Good to go.
And ironically, I've actually heard that, especially about running, because of the nutrients and stuff that's in beer. Now, the key is to have one. That's where I think I usually go
run.
But if you go running or something like that actually helps. It's better than water or Gatorade, just because it's got better nutrients, something else within it. So
well, Gatorade and Powerade isn't really that good for you because they put so much sugar in that stuff.
It's a lot of sweets.
I'd rather just drink water.
Yeah.
Especially alkaline water with a high pH, that's what your body really craves. Did you know that a lot of water is acidic?
I did not know that.
Good for your body. So if you drink like Essentia or Body Armor, they alkaline the water. Like your body really needs like a 9.5 pH or an 8.4 pH or whatever. Just food for thought there. If anybody didn't know about alkaline water, it's actually what your body needs as opposed to most water is actually acidic.
I didn't. I'm an Aquafina guy. I don't get much beyond that. Like that's kind of as far as I go.
So go for alkaline water. I'm telling you, I drink it quite frequently, and it tastes better too. I don't like Aquafina. It's terrible water.
It's better than Dasani. Dasani's garbage.
I'm one of those nutty people that actually think water tastes different from different manufacturers.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah. I completely agree with that. I would not deny that. But I drink a little Aquafina and sometimes like not the Smart Water. Maybe it is Smart Water.
Yeah, water.
Round, tall bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as good as old style.
No, but, no. If you don't filter it through something like hops, like that's that's going to improve your water
that's
tenfold.
The way to go.
Yeah.
A little yeast, a little hops, a little barley. Maybe some malt in there.
It's all natural from the earth.
Organic's the way to go.
Exactly. See, and in the last one, was it last week? I think the New Belgium, they're carbon neutral, so really it's good for the planet too.
It's good for the planet.
Load up on fat tire and old style.
And we haven't even gotten into much of the history in brewing yet, or beer, or ales, or anything. But, back in the times of old style, old style isn't that old, but it gives the look of being back in the medieval times. That's what they drank back then, was wines and ales and stuff like that. They didn't drink water because they didn't have any way to filter and clean water. Water was so contaminated back then, so they had to make ales,
make something else out of it,
and wines, and that's what they drank. So there's something to that.
Yeah. We're here today because they were here then. So, the math adds up.
Thank you to them.
Yeah, it's very interesting, even, just kind of like how, IPAs were born. IPAs are kind of the notoriously super hoppy beers, really heavy beers, like the from the New Belgium, the Voodoo Rangers, or, you see there's a lot of like juicy haze or, hazy IPAs, a lot of things like that. But really the IPA itself, it was born out of a shipping deal. It was the spice trade from India.
That's where IPAs had started?
Because the heavier IPA made the beer last longer. They had more hops, so it actually preserved the beer better.
Preserved, okay.
And so it was essentially used as just more of a preservative, more than anything, just because of the long trips that they would be taking. So, born out of whatever the necessity at the time was, like you're saying that, trying to get clean water or anything, like when you have a long trip, you got to have something on the trip. And if your beer lasts, 2 weeks, but you have a 2-month trip, you got to come up with something else. Well, let's just toss a whole bunch more hops in there and see if it lasts longer.
Well, that came from India.
It was, I don't know if it was specifically India, but it was part of the India spice route.
Okay.
From
I
the
remember
ships.
Reading about that in high school.
So,
A few things I remember about high school history class. Yeah, I remember them doing the spice
and being able to play, hot cross buns on the recorder,
right.
And knowing that you can't ever have a calculator in your pocket.
Right.
It was, with that route, they had to preserve it a little bit better. And so they just loaded it up with hops, more hops better, which is kind of, I kind of followed on that route. Triple IPA. All right, here we go. Triple hop, dry hop.
That's one thing we'll get more into in the future for the listeners is like the history of brewery and where it came from. It's interesting stuff to learn about that.
It's fun to, we talk a little bit about the history of the breweries themselves, but like you said, like the history of what and why and how, we're going to at some point be able to, bring in some other, people that are maybe slightly more expert than we are.
Brandon, when he comes on, he'll tell us all about homebrew, how it started. He's on point with that stuff.
He is in the award-winning Minnesota brewer that has done some incredible things on a very local level. And when I mean very local, I think it's mostly just stuff that he has, like just tastings at his house. So, but he made a really good beer. I don't think he has any left. If he does, you're going to have some of it. But I got hops growing on the silo right outside here or whatever. He actually made a beer a couple years ago out of that stuff. And we handpicked it, and I gave it. I'm like, this is what I got. And he's like, all right, well, I'll come up with something. And he did a little, on his iPad, and I went down there and I drank beer and watched him make a beer out of it. And he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have to make an adjustment of this because of that," and I'm like, "Oh, well, okay,
Just
well,
make some beer and let me drink it."
Well, yeah, I'll wait here. Let me know if you need anything.
You still have hops on your silo now?
Yeah, they're pretty. I'm gonna have to check them here in a little bit, but they're pretty light because of the lack of rainfall. I didn't water them real well. I could have because there's a hose attached right next to it. But that's
what are you doing
time
with your
and
time?
effort and
Priorities.
I know exactly.
You don't need to mow the yard; just water the hops.
Exactly. That's what I need to focus on. Is it's really what's important. But yeah. So like the last time they checked, the cones are pretty light. There's not much.
Sure.
So I might be able to get it off of there, but I don't know that there'd be a whole lot of flavor to it.
I remember when we homebrewed in your house. That one time, the very first time I helped you start,
right?
Like we were trying to boil water, and it took like 12 hours to even get this big old metal container of water boiled. And
yeah, because we were trying to. I think at the time we were trying to boil all 5 gallons instead of just like a gallon or 2 gallons. Like.
And then we were having to stir it the next day, so we drilled a hole through here.
That's right.
through the hood, everybody that has the vent hood in their house over the stove with the little fan. Well, we drilled a hole through that thing and it's had a drill up there to stir the.
That's right.
Stir the mix.
Duct tape that thing into place and then use a shoestring to set the trigger. It just and then we just drank beer and watched TV like 5 feet away. Oh, I almost forgot about that. Every so often it pops up on Facebook that I did that. I'm like, oh, that's right.
and ironically enough, that homebrew, whatever it was called, was actually not too bad. The final product was okay.
If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I want to say it was like Eric the Red Ale or something like that. It was a red ale of some sort because I think I got it because of my affliction with Killian's Irish Red. Yeah. So that's why I was trying to kind of make something like that. It didn't taste the same as Killian's, but yeah, that was probably. I mean, I'm not a home brewer in the sense of like a Brandon by any stretch, but just some work on some kits and do some stuff. I've probably made 6 to 10 or something like that. That was still the best one.
That was pretty.
That was the best one that I've ever made. Yeah, I don't know. Good stuff. If you make homebrew at home, definitely reach out on the old social media. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Rumble. There we go. I was gonna say Duolingo. Like I don't remember.
Yeah. Like, comment, share, make comments. Ask us questions, give us ideas. All that good stuff.
Maybe even recommend another brew if you'd like to get our take on, a different company or a different business, or even if you're a brewer, you're just looking for, to get, all of our listeners to get some extra advertising or something like.
Or if you want to be on our podcast and you're close to us,
absolutely,
let us know. We'll get you on, and you can educate us on the history of homebrew and what you do and how it works and.
You can explain how you've gone from a basement brewer to, a massive brewery in Colorado or something.
Like Fat Tire.
Exactly. So, yeah, we hope you enjoyed the episode today and hope you can join us for future podcasts. Find it on all the major streaming services, wherever it may be. Again, like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, tell all your family, tell even your neighbor that you don't like. Make them go and click and, listen to, 3 seconds at least, have them just click on.
A 3-second clip.
Yeah. Yep. Just send them that. Just have them just listen to the intro, then, get to there. Just get to the, that's
all we need.
Then, it goes downhill from there because we start talking.
It all helps out our algorithms on all that social media stuff.
So we appreciate anything you are able to help with us. But, definitely give us feedback. Anything in the social media. Get us, whatever your thoughts are. We want to interact as best we can as well. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for listening. God bless.